Number 7. Riley Higgins. The 23-year-old son of an Australian millionaire was arrested following an armed robbery which occurred on August the 17th of 2022 at a gas station in Avalon on Sydney's northern beaches. CCTV footage showed a masked suspect holding up the establishment with what was later determined to have been an air rifle. The gunman was identified as Riley Higgins, an aspiring rapper and the son of Peter Higgins, the millionaire co-founder of the mortgage broking firm Mortgage Choice. Higgins threatened the station attendant before making off with roughly $400 in cash. He was subsequently arrested and charged with robbery while armed with a dangerous weapon. His mother, Rebecca, worked as a registered clinical counselor and psychotherapist. She reported during the consequent legal proceedings that Higgins had undergone mental health treatment from a young age after being diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, a mood disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder. Rebecca added that her son was also dealing with an addiction to drugs and alcohol. As of October 2022, Higgins was granted bail and set to undergo a 3-month treatment program at a center north of Sydney while awaiting trial for the armed robbery. Number 6. Stephanie Scolaro. 26-year-old Stephanie Scolaro was arrested by London law enforcement on March the 8th of 2017 for running a business that illegally imported endangered python skin fashion accessories to the UK. Scolaro's mother hailed from Britain while her father was Italian mining magnate Francesco Scolaro. When news of her arrest broke, local media referred to her as a rich kid of Instagram, as she regularly traveled on private planes to her family's properties in Monaco, New York, and Ibiza, posting about her experiences for her over 100,000 followers. Scolaro sold snakeskin bags and baseball caps on the social media platform and through her website SS Python, as well as several London-based boutiques. The young woman, who also worked as a swimsuit model, was arrested on the same day that customs officials seized her illegal products at Heathrow Airport. The police seized 35 caps along with a snakeskin bag, which were valued at over $18,000. Specimens of python leather were also found at Scolaro's luxury home in Parkview Residences, Marylebone. Law enforcement also discovered 2 forged importation certificates which Scolaro's defense would later argue was evidence that the young woman had been scammed by Indonesian snake farmers. She eventually admitted 2 counts of importing goods with the intent to evade a prohibition, 2 counts of keeping for sale a species acquired unlawfully, and 2 counts of selling a species unlawfully imported. She was spared jail and in January of 2019 given a 12-month community order requiring her to carry out 160 hours of unpaid work. The sentencing judge had harsh words for Scolaro, describing her as utterly self-centered and mentally removed from the reality of her crimes by having always been given what she wanted. Scolaro maintained that she hadn't known pythons were endangered or that animal cruelty was basically the backbone of her business. Scolaro also claimed that the Wildlife Crime Unit was using her as an advertising campaign because of her social standing, adding, "It's not as if I killed a snake." Number 5. King Harris. King Harris, the oldest son of rapper Clifford T.I. and singer-songwriter Tamika Tiny Harris, was arrested in Atlanta, Georgia in late August of 2022. The full circumstances of the arrest weren't disclosed, but they were reported to have been centered on 18-year-old Harris not wearing a seatbelt. His attitude and lack of cooperation during the traffic stop were believed to have resulted in him being taken into custody. He later announced his release on social media in a post that also involved him cursing at the police. As his mugshot went viral, many internet users accused the teenage rapper, who performed as Kid Cyan, of trying to act like a gangster. His behavior was found particularly unsavory given the fact that he enjoyed a comfortable and privileged lifestyle primarily due to his parents' success. Harris later replied to his critics on social media while taking a bubble bath. He agreed that he shouldn't be getting arrested, claiming he was too rich for it. Harris also noted that his behavior had nothing to do with acting tough, adding, I ain't asked for the police to pull me over. T.I. also replied to fan concerns on social media and claimed that he recognized the energy in his son, insisting that he was a good kid, chasing after the wrong things before concluding that time was going to be his teacher. T.I. himself had a long history of legal troubles, with the most recent accusation also involving his wife, Tiny. By 2021, more than 30 women had come forward alleging that the couple and their associates had drugged, kidnapped, and abused them in at least 2 states, including California and Georgia. Number 4. Alexandra Jane Jackson. Alexandra Jane Jackson, daughter of country music icon Alan Jackson, was arrested in Nashville, Tennessee in August of 2013. Local police had observed a Range Rover speeding and conducted a traffic stop. 20-year-old Jackson, who was in the passenger seat, became irate as an officer spoke to the SUV's driver. She got out and her anger grew when the officer requested that she return to the car. Upon being warned that failure to follow the command would result in her arrest, Jackson, who appeared to be intoxicated at the time, struck the officer in the chest. She then resisted arrest to such an extent that the officer had to call for backup. After she was finally restrained, Jackson told the arresting officer that her father would do anything she wanted, but was promptly warned about any bribery attempt. She was charged with assault, underage drinking, and resisting arrest. Jackson eventually took a plea deal that saw her perform community service as well as take alcohol safety and anger management courses. Number 3. Sarah and Claire Bronfman. Following an expose by the New York Times, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York investigated a multi-level self-help company called NXIVM and brought charges to several of its leading members in 2018. While on the surface, the organization provided seminars supposedly promoting human potential development, it had a secret branch called DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, which loosely translates for Master over the Slave Women. It encouraged female masters to recruit slaves for NXIVM leader Keith Raniere, who was the only male member of the secret society. Roughly 150 women joined DOS, after being led to believe it was an empowering, women-only organization. In reality, they were forced to act as Raniere's private slaves and ceremonially branded with his initials via cauterizing pen. To ensure obedience, they were forced to provide collateral such as explicit videos and photos, compromising information, or rights to personal assets. They were sleep deprived, verbally demeaned, corporally punished, and forced to undergo restrictive diets or perform labor as a means of submitting to Raniere's control. Several whistleblowers came forward denouncing NXIVM and DOS, resulting in the arrest of Raniere, who was ultimately sentenced to 120 years in prison. 2 of his accomplices were Claire and Sarah Bronfman, daughters of Seagram billionaire Edgar Bronfman Sr. Sarah had joined NXIVM in 2001 and persuaded Claire to do the same the following year. The heiresses, both in their 20s at the time, became committed followers and financial backers of Raniere's. They relocated to upstate New York to work as NXIVM trainers and introduced their father to the organization. Edgar distanced himself from it after learning that Claire had given Raniere a $2 million loan. Claire would go on to spend roughly $150 million on the organization. Following a conflict with her father, she installed keylogger software on his computer, allowing NXIVM members to access it. Forbes magazine featured Raniere on its cover in 2003, calling him the world's strangest executive coach, with the accompanying article quoting Edgar describing NXIVM as a cult. As Moore shared that same viewpoint, Raniere formed the World Ethical Foundation's consortium, seeking to distance himself from the cult leader label. Sarah and Claire were successful in bringing the Dalai Lama to its inaugural event held in 2009 in Albany. Years later, it emerged that Sarah had been intimate with Tenzin Dondin, the Dalai Lama's gatekeeper, who'd arranged the appearance and who, as a monk, had taken a vow of celibacy. Following her arrest for NXIVM-related activity, Claire pleaded guilty to conspiracy to conceal and harbor illegal aliens for financial gain and fraudulent use of identification. She was sentenced to 6 years and 9 months in prison in 2020. In January of that same year, she and Sarah were named as defendants in a civil lawsuit filed in federal court by 80 former NXIVM members who accused them of fraud and abuse. Number 2. Lindsay Knickerbocker. On February the 13th of 2022, the daughter of a well-known reality TV star was arrested for methamphetamine possession and forgery in Arkansas. 33-year-old Lindsay Knickerbocker was stopped near a motel in Crittenden County after law enforcement noticed that her license plate light was out. When officers searched her vehicle, they found 4 grams of meth, over $2,000 in counterfeit money, 2 forged checks, and a device to print more. Knickerbocker's mother, Tammy, had starred on season 2 and 3 of The Real Housewives of Orange County. It was only after the police received a call from TMZ that they realized the woman's celebrity ties. In her mugshot, Knickerbocker looked drastically different from her red carpet photos or past TV appearances. The dramatic change was speculated to have been a consequence of her meth addiction. Although her latest arrest arguably had the most serious implications she'd faced up to that point, it hadn't been the first. In 2013, she was spotted driving erratically and hitting several parked cars on Balboa Island in California. With the police in tow, the then 23-year-old fled to a friend's house. When law enforcement arrived at the address, Knickerbocker resisted arrest by punching an officer in the stomach. Her blood alcohol level was found to have been 0.32, which was a life-threatening 4 times over the legal limit. Knickerbocker was given 3 years probation, ordered to perform community services, and undergo a first offender alcohol program. Number 1. Samuel Earl Rich. In the early morning hours of August the 13th of 2021, a young Tennessee woman was shot in the head at the Shelbyville home she shared with her boyfriend. The bullet went under 21-year-old Hannah Grace Perryman's left eye and exited from under her left ear. Following an investigation, the shooter was identified as Samuel Earl Rich, the son of a prominent Bedford County judge. After firing at her, he reportedly stood over Perryman's body to make sure she was dead. Miraculously, the woman survived. After Richard fled, she was airlifted to a hospital and underwent life-saving surgery that left her with some bullet fragments still embedded in her face. It would emerge that a few hours before the attack on Perryman, Richard gunned down her boyfriend, 22-year-old James William Warner. He was found abandoned near the intersection of Delaware Avenue and 35th Avenue North in Nashville, and it was determined that he'd been fatally shot 4 times. The judge's son would also later be charged with stealing his 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee, cash and ID. 25-year-old Rich surrendered to the authorities within a few days of the 2 shooting incidents after being placed on the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Most Wanted list. During the trial that followed, an agent for the TBI revealed that Rich had tried to hire a hitman while he was behind bars. He'd hoped that the prospective assassin could kill Perryman with an overdose and make it look like an accident. Convinced that the case against him would fall apart without her, in recorded jailhouse phone calls, Rich was heard assuring the other man that he was a good guy and that he would pay him, mentioning his family's wealth and that his father was in the judicial system. In a victim impact statement read during the trial, Perryman revealed that in addition to various physical difficulties stemming from the shooting, she suffered from PTSD and constant panic attacks. She also described the emotional turmoil she'd experienced after learning that Warner, the love of her life, had been killed in cold blood. Rich was sentenced to the maximum of 59 years for the Perryman shooting after being found guilty of multiple offenses, including attempted first-degree murder, aggravated burglary, and weapons charges. His behavior in court indicated a lack of remorse as he was seen smiling and laughing at various times throughout the proceedings. Against his defense's wishes, he spoke during sentencing and revealed a possible motive Rich claimed he'd been angry over a FaceTime call from March of 2019, during which someone had urinated on a bundle of letters from his dead grandmother. He apologized to Perryman and insisted he wasn't the animal he'd been made out to be. His trial for the Warner shooting was set for April of 2023. Thanks for watching. Would you trade in your sibling for a private jet? Let us know in the comments section below.